Welcome to this Lenten devotional series based on Mark's Gospel. For day 1, Ash Wednesday, we'll read Mark 8:31-33. Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all this quite openly, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Talk about whiplash. Look at what had just been happening. Jesus healed a deaf and mute man, and the disciples saw the look on the man's face when he first heard and spoke. Then Jesus fed a whole multitude with a few fish and loaves. Then he once again put the Pharisees in their place, and then he healed blind Bartimaeus. This sort of thing happened all the time with Jesus, and it was thrilling. And so for Jesus then to turn right around and tell his disciples that he must suffer and be killed, well, it was whiplash. And Peter's reaction would have been ours too, only Peter was bold enough to say it. Mark says he rebuked Jesus. That's strong. And so was Jesus' response. "Get out of my way." Not Peter, but "Get out of my way, Satan." Now that's really strong. But Jesus recognized the source. It wasn't just Peter's immature love for Jesus, but Satan himself was using Peter's immature love to tempt Jesus again, just as Satan had tempted him in the wilderness, offering a Messiah shortcut that would avoid the cross. And Jesus didn't mince words with Satan. "Get out of my way, Satan." Now, we know what Peter and the disciples still could not know, that the Messiah did in fact go to the cross, and that his death would be followed by something else he hinted at here, that he would rise on the third day. But even with our full gospel story advantages, it's still hard to take in that the new life Jesus brings could not come on the cheap, that it could come no other way than the whiplash way Jesus described that day. Even with all that we know, it's tough to hold that hardest part of the good news in our minds and hearts. And thus the church across the centuries has set aside a season to give that hardest part of the gospel a special focus, and that's this season of Lent. There are many ways to shape a Lenten focus, from Ash Wednesday's mark of the cross on the forehead to various fasting patterns. I would invite you to consider adding this series of daily Lenten devotionals to your other Lenten disciplines. We'll go with Jesus through this portion of Mark's Gospel as he goes to the cross, and we'll stick with this pattern. I'll read the passage, offer a few thoughts, and then close with a couple of questions for your meditation or discussion. Let's do together now what Jesus knew his disciples needed then: to go with him to Jerusalem. Here are a couple of questions to ponder. If you had seen what the disciples had just seen, which of those amazing moments would have touched you most deeply? What life-giving work has Jesus done in you that thrills you most? And what do you suppose that life-giving work in you has to do with the cross? God bless.